Hello, welcome to Soothe Yourself podcast. I'm Francesca, and today I have the pleasure to have with me one of my addition to my friends group, Laura Anderson, who is a confidence and self-development coach, and who's here with us today to talk about confidence, how to build it, how to overcome fear. So thank you so much, Laura, for being with us today.
Thank you, Francesca, for having me.
Confidence is such a great tool to have, and sometimes a scary one. So I can think about growing up and not having a lot of self-esteem brought down my confidence level. So it's
It happens to
definitely,
everybody.
yes, doesn't it? But you know what I was thinking? When we start walking as babies, toddlers, we don't have the confidence of doing. We are there, bouncing left and right, falling and coming back up and trying over again until we confidently walk, and own it. So how do we own being who we are? That's the big
Well,
question.
it is. It is. And I think there are a lot of different answers to that, but I kind of want to go back to what you were saying, where basically we try over and over and over again to until we get it right. And when we're little, we don't think about, we fall, we might cry, but we get back up and we keep going because we don't think about, like, to us, it's an inevitability that we actually can walk or crawl or talk or do
Mm-hmm.
whatever we need to, and
Mm-hmm.
and our minds are just these sponges. The problem is, as we get older, because our minds are such sponges, we start to see other things around us, and we start kind of incorporating some of those things into our lives. And eventually we start to develop these beliefs. And some of you may know them as limiting beliefs, but we start to develop these beliefs, and some of them we think of as fact. Some of them we know that it's a negative thought that we have about ourselves or someone else, but ultimately they come from us, from our experiences, from others, from society, things that happen in the world. Are because our brains are such sponges, we really start to absorb some of those things. And there's an author and confidence coach that I follow. I really love her. Her name is Erica Kramer, and she has the most amazing metaphor for it. So she talks about how when we're born, we're basically kind of like, our brains are like this house, and as we grow, everybody else starts to decorate our house. Our
Oh,
parents,
interesting.
yeah, our parents pick the paint, and like baby mom
Mm.
picks the paint and dad picks the furniture. And then your friends start to add like little bits and pieces to it. And society starts to do that. And by the time you're older, you look at your house and realize very little of that house is actually yours. It's been created by things that are accumulated over the years from your experiences, the people that you meet, the things that you see, and the knowledge that you've gained throughout society. And it's such a great metaphor. And she also addresses how when you start to really become yourself, when you start to own your identity and become a more confident version of who you are, you really start to, you say, okay, Dad, I know you gave me this amazing couch, but I'm going to replace it with my own. Okay, hey, Mom, I know you picked out, my paint. Yeah, but I'm going to repaint this in a version that's more me. And so I really love that analogy. I wish I could come up with one as clever as that one, but it's such a good one. Why change it, right?
Absolutely. And it is a very good one. In fact, growing up, I remember anytime I would end the school year or change in life, from middle school to high school, or even before from, K through, because in Italy, middle school is separate from the K through 8. It's like K through fifth, and then you got your middle school age. So even then, I had to rearrange my bedroom. I wanted to. It was like for me a fresh start. And it's interesting now with the analogy because it was like I was trying to rediscover myself and prepare to an extra layer of growth because that's what happens. We evolve, we grow. And that's the beauty of it. Now, growing up, I also was labeled certain things, like you said, those false beliefs, that we have, and sometimes there are really labels that it's hard to peel off. And in my case, one of them was about my self-esteem, but also how I look, my appearance, and I have a very Italian nose. And growing up, I thought there was an ugly nose. And the comment from a parent of mine, my sweet mom, she said, "Well, you're ugly, but you're funny." And it just stuck with me as something like, okay, then maybe I will never be able to be an actress, which is one of my dreams. So I grew up with the idea you have to be beautiful to do what you want. And it's such a wrong belief. And thankfully, when I moved to this country, I away from Italy and into America, I had to change so many furniture and paint, Laura, and peel those labels off. And I'm still working on those. Some are really stuck there. It's hard after years. But what I realized is that confidence in Italian has a meaning of familiarity. You know very well something. So if you take confidence with somebody, it means you're familiar with them. You become friends. You know them well. And so I think it's really connected to our self confidence. If we know who we are, we have a better sense of what we can do and how we can be, but also the fact that we continue to evolve. So I found interesting you have, and we'll mention it for you all who are listening, we'll mention the website, don't worry. But one of the things that is on Laura's website is actually a confidence assessment, right? And
Mhm.
also a beautiful playoff. It's like a playbook, confidence playbook, 10 ways to level your game, and it's a very fantastic way to point out that we evolve so much that if you were to take that assessment or look at that playbook, today and look again in 3 to 5 years from now, you might have a different results in the assessment. Is that correct? Do you agree with that, Laura? Do you think that's accurate?
Oh, absolutely. And to be quite honest, I mean, it's definitely going to change after 3 or 5 years, but it may change in 3 or 5 months, or even less than that. Like it could be 3 or 5 weeks. So if you were taking the confidence assessment, which is a freebie on my website, if you were to take that confidence assessment, and I would suggest taking it multiple times because
Mm-hmm.
it it looks at different aspects of your life, not just yourself. You may be somebody who's really, really confident in yourself in general, but well, I should say you could be confident in yourself in some areas of your life, but feel really, not confident at all in other areas of your life. So, personality wise, appearance wise, friends wise, you might rock. But you get to work and you feel like the work that you do isn't good enough, or you're scared to request a promotion or go for a job that has better pay, simply because you're worried that your experience isn't enough, or that you're not qualified, or that you will mess up. And you may find that as you start to work on some of those other areas, so once you take the confidence assessment, it kind of shows you areas in your life that could use a little improvement. And it is, keep in mind, if you do this assessment, it's not meant to be like an end all be all. It's not meant to say, oh, well, I lack confidence in this area, so I guess I suck. I'm just never going to be confident.
Never say
Conf
never. Never say
Yeah,
never.
that's true. It's meant to just kind of show you like, oh, maybe I could use a little work. It's a lot of confidence is a lot of personal development.
Mhm.
And if anybody's listening or watching this and they're looking for a silver bullet for confidence, there isn't one. Confidence is something that you have to work on repeatedly. There are going to be things in your life and you're constantly taking in information. Remember, those brains are sponges, and we're always constantly revising our houses. And when when we think about confidence, we're never going to find the one thing that makes us confident. There are many things that will help us with that, but as we're pulling in more and more information, new limiting beliefs are going to develop, and then we have to combat those. The idea of, for me, being a confidence coach, my goal is not to have you, for example, work with me for the rest of your life. I mean, if you wanted to, that's totally your prerogative. But the whole point is to help teach you the tools to combat the things that bring down your confidence, to show you how to build your confidence up, obviously,
Yes,
is the
yes.
first thing. But then the having the toolbox where something comes up and then you can take a look and assess it and say, okay, what's actually happening here? Like my body feels different. I'm physically tense. My brain is starting to tell me some negative things. I see paintings going up in my house that I didn't put there. What what tools do I have that can help me combat what's happening and reverse the bad progress that's happening towards eroding my confidence. And so that's the idea with a confidence coach is to help give you the tools so that you can identify what's happening and then figure out what tool do I have to, to break the chain, to break the cycle of my lack of confidence here and there. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, you sure did. And you also made me think about the idea of building steps, right? So if you build good habits, good ways to think about who you are or who you're becoming, then you can build habits that reflect that. Correct. Because I
Hmm.
remember another thing that Laura does, guys and dolls out there, it's fantastic. She has a community called the Thrive Tribe. Am I right?
That's correct.
And yes, and one of the things that we do in that community is Laura provides us with webinars twice a month. And in one of these webinars, I remember we talked about building good habits. And I think you mentioned just that we can mold ourselves as we're becoming and we're evolving. We can mold ourselves to be more self-confident by building good habits. Can you
Mhm.
elaborate on that for who's listening now, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So Francesca, you know, because you've attended several of my webinars, that I absolutely love James Clear and his
Mhm.
book Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And one of my favorite, I'm going to read one of my favorite quotes from him, and I love it so much. I actually have it like right there on my wall behind my monitor. But
Awesome.
he says in his book, when you fall in love with the process rather than the product, you don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. You can be satisfied anytime your system is running. So that's from James Clear from the book Atomic Habits.
Mhm.
And the thing that I love about that, he's not saying that achievement goals are a bad thing or that we shouldn't be happy with having those things, but he does talk about how like his whole point is when you start putting systems in place and they start working for you, you can be happy that your system is working. You don't have to wait to accomplish something. And I think that's where when it comes to confidence, one of the things that people really struggle with is trust within themselves. They might feel like they don't keep promises to themselves,
Mhm.
or they may feel that they just don't follow through on certain things. And when you feel like you're letting yourself and others down repeatedly, then it starts to erode your confidence. And what he's talking about here, and he doesn't necessarily talk about it in the form of confidence. This is just my application of it, is that if you put systems in place to help yourself, you can you can be happy with the fact that you have a working process and you can
Mhm.
start to build your confidence by slowly showing yourself that you do follow through, that you do have these things that happen repeatedly and when something happens in your life,
Mhm.
because you've developed this process, and it's a good thing, obviously, but because you've developed this process, you can start to slowly build your confidence by showing
Mhm.
yourself that yes, I am doing this. This is working.
Yes.
And then you start to really increase your momentum and you find other areas of your life where you can create processes and then you start building confidence in some of those areas as well.
Awesome. So in terms of habits, for instance, in the morning, the morning routine, if I think of me as a more confident me, what would a more confident me do in the morning? How would she start the day? Right. And even in those daily routine things, we can take better care of ourselves and therefore improve and become that person we are trying to be. Because the truth is, we are continuously evolving. So it's not that we are nulling who we are transforming constantly to a better version. And
Hmm.
so we want to absolutely be able to feel confident of that. And I also want to go back to the word trust. It goes back to my roots, but in Italian, for instance, from the Catholic perspective, the we believe in Jesus, and we say the divine mercy, right? And the motto for the divine mercy is I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in you. Well, in Italian is Gesù confido in te. So we use the confident part of the word. It's like we trust in you becomes a confidence matter. I am
Hmm.
confident in your mercy. And so if we can be confident in who we are, we don't have to be arrogant about it, just self-assured that we know who we are. And so we stand firm and we can face anything. And that brings me to another question I had for you, which is about overcoming fears, because sometimes we are afraid not to be good enough or not to be strong enough or not to have the qualities of that confident person that we want to be. So, how do we face those fears?
Oh, that's a good question. And I would say everybody's going to handle that differently because their fear stems from something different.
Mhm.
And I'll give an example for me. I tried for 10 years to get out of teaching and become a coach. Um, and I got pulled back into teaching 4 times,
Mm-hmm.
which is, talk about a confidence killer, trying to make it
Yes.
doing something else, and then getting pulled back in because you haven't succeeded so far. But I just keep trying. Like I'm so passionate about this that I keep trying regardless. And so I'd say that's one of the things is to understand that your dream or your passion or who you're helping is more important than the fear that you feel in doing those things. And part of what kept me going back, I mean, I wasn't being successful. And so then I'd go back to the same old, and then I'd get discontent. And then I would try again. And then I wouldn't be successful. And then I'd go back to teaching. And so it's definitely like I'll talk about my cycle. And some of you may really resonate with this in just a second. But that idea that um, I mean, I had a decade of feeling like I was a failure in this. Like, okay, I love teaching, don't get me wrong. I was born to teach. But teaching high school with people who are put into your classroom, they didn't sign up
Mm-hmm.
for you. They didn't pick you. They had to have you. It's a whole different ball game than people who choose to work with you, in general. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach in a new way, and I just wasn't being successful doing it. And so, in it took a while for me to realize what was happening to me. And it wasn't until I actually started doing the confidence work that I realized the cycle that I was stuck in. And it's the fear of change cycle that I was stuck
Mm.
in general. And so really what happens is you have discontent, and it like grows and grows and grows. And
Yeah.
that's what was happening to me. Teaching was changing, education wasn't the same, the kids weren't the same, which you don't expect. But like I have had so many people over the years, especially the last few years of my teaching career, say, "Oh my gosh, how do you do it?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they know that things are definitely not what they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and 25, which is how long I taught. And so I did feel that discontent, and it increased so much that I eventually reached this major breaking point and decided, okay, this is it. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of teaching. And we at the time happened to be moving to Washington State. So I thought, okay, what a great time to like change my career. But even then, I still did some teaching. It was just a different kind. It was one-on-one. It wasn't in a classroom. And so it thankfully was all the fun things about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody knows, oh, teachers don't get paid all that well. But I really didn't get paid well. And it the pay was so poor. I mean, the hours were so crazy that I eventually did have to go back to the classroom just to get more pay.
It's such a sad
Um,
thing about education, by the way. It really is a sad thing that
it
it's
is.
underpaid.
It is. And people talk here in the US about there being a teacher shortage. There is not a teacher shortage. There are plenty of people who want to be teachers, but
Yeah.
they understand that the politics are not in their favor. They understand that the pay is not in their
Mhm.
favor. They understand too when they step foot in a classroom that they're going to have drills dealing with weather. They're going to have drills dealing with somebody potentially coming in to shoot up their classroom.
Yeah.
And they don't feel in some instances that it's worth it. The pay isn't worth it. They don't feel like
Yeah.
they're treated like professionals. And in some school districts, they are. In some school districts, they're not. But it's sadly a crapshoot in that respect. But for me, I had tried to get out, and so I'd hit that breaking point, and I made the decision. Okay, I'm ready for change. I'm going to do this. Like you feel this. Um, Empowerment to actually move forward because you've made this decision.
Mhm.
And then time comes to make the change and you start to feel the fear. And for me, I, for 2.5 years, I got out of public education, but I still had my toe in there. I was
Yes.
scared to leave completely. And so then what happens after that is you start to think about your previous job and the comfort of it and well, it really wasn't that bad. I could probably go back to it, and you're forgetting the reasons that you left to
Mm-hmm.
begin with
Mm-hmm.
in favor of comfort. The fear of change is so strong and so scary that people will go back to, like, they forget, and they'll go back and they start thinking, okay, like, it really wasn't that bad. I can do this. I can go back. I don't even remember why I was so upset to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up staying where you are or going back to what you did. And then the cycle is just going to repeat itself. You're going to eventually hit a point where you're discontent, and then you're going to hit your breaking point, and then you're going to decide to leave. And then that fear is going to hit you because you have to make a change, and that change is hard. And then you forget why you were angry to begin with, and then you start talking yourself into staying, and you have that cycle over and over and over again. And it's not just teaching, for me, like, if you go back and think about that cycle and what happens, you can probably find that cycle happening in very, very small instances and the cycle happening in very, very large instances. And it could be like previously, I had talked about somebody being scared to apply for a promotion or change their job. You're hitting the fear of change cycle. You
Mm-hmm.
think you deserve it, you feel empowered, and then you start to maybe update your resume, and suddenly it's a scary situation. And then you stop working on that resume and you start thinking, okay, it's not so bad where I am, because that change is so scary and it's unknown and you don't know what's going to happen, but you know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what's going to happen
Yeah.
where you currently are. And I don't remember who said it, but that idea that our comfort zone isn't really all that comfortable. It's just familiar. And our
Absolutely.
brains, yeah, our
Absolutely.
brains are trained to stick with the familiar because it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you have to learn on your journey of building confidence is that, and I had to learn it, like everything I'm telling you, I experienced myself. I'm still going through things, even as a confidence coach. Again, there's no silver bullet. You constantly have to work on it. So I'm constantly like, what am I afraid of? What's happening? What's
Sure.
keeping me from
Mm-hmm.
moving forward? But when you are in that fear of change, it can be something really, really tiny, and it can be something really, really big. And we have to really work to get ourselves out of that cycle, just in general.
Absolutely. And there is also with that the fact that we are evolving. So we are never really stuck in one place. If we think
Mhm.
about it, we really are not. But the comfort is something that we need to get unstuck from because if we don't get out of our comfort zone, we really don't allow ourselves to develop to our full potential. And I think I shared this in my introductory podcast that the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and figure out, is there a way for me to help others? And maybe there is, but oops, I got to get out of that comfort
Mhm.
situation where I'm not seen or heard. So, we have to be out there. But the other thing that made me think about fear of change is also fear of, like you said, the unknown, which happens also in relationships, not just in the work setting, in the areas of relationships, friendship. Because I remember growing up just thinking, maybe I don't have enough to contribute to the group. And so maybe I'll just be quiet today, or I'm not, and so the self-confidence monitor, level goes really down because of the fear of not being too high to certain standard. But we got to remember who created those standards. We're basically telling ourselves that we're going to fail because we have decided that the standard is up here, but where am I really? I mean, I can get up there and beyond.
Mhm.
And one thing that I usually share with some of my students, but I know I did with the family members too, is when you look at something that you want to do, don't think, I don't know how. Well, okay, you learn how, but
Mhm.
don't say I can't. Yeah, I can't. No, don't say that you cannot. Say I want and figure out a way. And also aim to what I say, the sky, to get to the top of the mountain, right? You can't just, oh, well, maybe I'll do a little bit. No, go for it. Go for it because there is growth in that. So when it comes to fear, there's no magic in there too. It really has to be a will of saying, I want this to be different. I want to feel different. So
Mhm.
um, there's so much that we can we can talk about. But I think that the beautiful thing about confidence is that it's a journey. Like you said, it never ends. Because if we are self-confident to the point that we are done, we are arrived, well, then we become arrogant and pompous, and that's not what we want to be. Because we're actually neglecting the fact that we're not quite completely evolved. So there is beauty in the confidence journey. Um, Anything else you can share? Just thinking about you as a teacher, and when you do the webinars, you are in the teacher position. And I can imagine the privilege of being your student because you have those qualities of sharing good information in a caring manner and caring for the success of your students. So as a coach, that transfers to that, right? You want to see the people bloom into their full potential. So the two, and I guess what I'm going at is that they complement one another. So even if
Mhm.
you were like in between, you were probably just caterpillar butterfly transforming into using both to the best potential. So for those up there who are struggling between two careers, think about it. Maybe they complement one another. And if they're completely different, maybe it's because it's time you get out of that comfort zone.
Mhm.
Right? But it's just so fascinating to me. And one thing that I want also to ask you about is in the process of building good habits and trying to overcome fear, where do you think is a place for self-boosting remarks, like self-affirmation? Do you think those help?
I do. And I really like the work of Dr. Shad Helmstetter. So he talks about, he's got some great books out, and he's got over 40 years in
Mm-hmm.
research on self-talk. And he talks about affirmations, and he says, for those of you who basically, for those of you who think affirmations are just kind of woo woo, I mean, you can continue thinking that, but there's science behind it, like legitimate science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
that affirmations do work. And the way that you can see them is not just this woo woo higher power, universe, whatever you want to call it, channeling through you. It's you reprogramming, which is what your house is made of, right? Like your house was programmed into you. The house that your parents built and you built with your experiences and your friends contributed and society contributed and any piece of information you've ever consumed consumed in your life has contributed to building your house. And in order to create a house that's 100% you, affirmations are a part of that. All of those things that happened were programming in your brain, and all that programming can be unprogrammed as well or reprogrammed in a new way. And when you do affirmations, you're dealing with the neuroplasticity of your brain, you're changing it, you're reshaping it, you're
Mhm.
rebuilding your house, you're tearing things down and putting new things back up. And that's what affirmations are meant to do. And he even says, like, because I know some people stop affirmations because they say, well, this really is a lie. If I'm talking about, I bring money to me, or something like that, they say, okay, I don't have money coming to me. This is a total lie. Why would I want to think this?
If that was
um
true, we would all be millionaires.
it is true. But the idea that he's saying is that, yes, at first it does seem like a lie, and then eventually you reprogram your brain to understand the truth of it. That there are billions and billions of dollars on the planet, and it's not just for the 1% of the 1%. It can be for other people, but you were already programmed one way, saying that money just isn't for you. And it could be that you grew up in a house where money was scarce. It could be that you constantly heard one of your parents say, we don't have money for that. Well, that's programming. That's programming.
Mhm.
That's somebody putting up a picture in your house. And so you can put up a new one. You can choose to, and you can do it with affirmations. And yes,
Yes.
they are going to feel weird at first. Yes, they are going to seem like they're not truth at first. And then eventually you'll reprogram your brain enough that it starts to accept it as truth. And that's the science of it. That's not any woo woo. That's not some mystical thing. It's literally thinking about, it's people who have worked with brains and understand, how you can change your neural pathways, by creating new programming. And you can do that yourself. You don't have to have other people do it. And that's all your limiting beliefs are too. They're bad programming. And you can reprogram anything you want.
That sounds fascinating because if you think about it, the world we live these days, there's so much technology, so many, softwares. There are programs, right? But who created them? The human brain. So we have the technology within ourselves to
Hmm.
understand technology of reprogramming. And it can be as simple as I used to say to myself, I cannot do this. Well, now I'm going to say, I am able to do this and try your best to get it done. And when you think about the scarcity of, upbringing that really did not have enough money and then they become more successful, but that is also determination, reprogramming with determination of I want my family, my children to have a better experience than I had to have. I know my parents did the best they could, but I want to do more because we are um, entitled to more. That's what
Hmm.
I'm going after. And it's there for us to take if we want. So it's a question, it goes back to reprogramming your thoughts and connecting into your desires to who you are and who you want to be and transforming in the process. So embrace the confidence, guys. Embrace it. The process is beautiful and the reward at the end is just amazing. And I'm so grateful to you, Laura, for taking the time to be with us today. There is so much more that I'm sure we may have a chance for a part two at some point along the line, but I'm very grateful to you. And please mention to us where we can find you. I know where, but for the people who are listening, your website and your community.
Yeah, so I on my website you can find my community, but my website is liveandthrive365.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at Live and Thrive 365. And you can reach out to me, you can DM me. My email is Laura at liveandthrive365.com. So everything is the same. And it's not an ampersand, it's actually the word and, A-N-D. So pretty easy to reach out.
Fantastic. So if you're watching us on YouTube, I will post the link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching us or listening to us on Spotify, go check out this beautiful website and more information about Laura and wonderful techniques to build up our confidence. And as always, thank you for listening. And until next time, smile and do something to soothe yourself.